Hello, my friends. Today we'll start with the fact that some very interesting results have come out of the negotiations between Witkoff and Putin. In fact, the Russian side is now clearly showing that they're very afraid of sanctions and are trying to do everything possible to prevent Trump from imposing them. That's why Putin has officially requested direct talks with Trump, and this has been confirmed by the White House. The president is pleased with the significant progress made during today's meeting between US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Putin in Moscow. The Russians have expressed their interest in meeting with President Trump, and he is open to a meeting both with Putin and with Zelensky. President Trump wants this brutal war to end. As of now, there are no specific dates. We haven't decided on the exact location yet. We had some very good conversations with Putin today, and there is a very good chance of bringing this to an end, of finally reaching the end of this long road. The road is still long, but there is a real chance that a meeting will happen. However, in the US, officials have started saying that the meeting could take place as early as next week. According to Fox News correspondent Peter Doocy, Russian President Vladimir Putin personally expressed his desire to meet with Donald Trump during talks with Special Envoy Steven Witkoff in Moscow. Trump, according to sources within his team, is ready for the meeting as early as next week, but only if it leads to an end to the war. This information was confirmed by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. The location of the talks hasn't yet been determined, but possible venues include Qatar and Switzerland. However, as the reporter notes, the meeting could still be postponed or even cancelled. Clearly, Trump is sending a strong message. If the war in Ukraine ends, he is willing to meet for that. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also had a phone conversation with Trump, and here is his statement following the call. I had a conversation with President Trump. This conversation took place after the visit of President Trump's representative Steven Witkoff to Moscow. Our joint position with our partners is absolutely clear. The war must end, and it must be a just ending. European leaders also participated in the call, and I am grateful to each of them for their support. We discussed what was said in Moscow. Ukraine will absolutely defend its independence. We all need lasting and reliable peace. Russia must end the war it started. Thank you to everyone who supports Ukraine. Overall, we are now waiting to see how these developments unfold. However, most likely on the 8th, Trump will not impose the sanctions against Russia that he previously promised. Instead, he is expected to say that we need to wait for direct talks with Putin.
Please.
President, in the past, you said you would know if Putin was tackling you along. What
Yeah.
gives you any confidence that he is or isn't doing that this time?
Can't answer the question yet. I'll tell you in a matter of weeks, maybe less. But we've made a lot of progress.
Senator Rubio has also stated that much work remains before any official meeting takes place. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that a phone call between Trump and Putin could happen in the coming days, but it hasn't been scheduled yet. He also said Trump will make a decision about new sanctions against Russia within the next 24 to 36 hours. Rubio added that Washington believes we're getting closer to ending the war in Ukraine and that the meeting between Witkoff and Putin was productive, but there is still a lot of work to be done. But it's clear Putin isn't going to back down easily from his demands to take control of the four regions. And most likely that's what these negotiations are really about. If Ukraine agrees to hand over the 4 territories and meet other Russian demands, Putin is ready to stop the war. This scenario has been discussed before, but in typical fashion, US officials act as if they're only just now realizing what Russia wants. Friends, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And now let's turn to the situation on the front line, because despite all these negotiations, the Russians are still trying to push forward. Today we'll start with the Kherson direction, since strikes on the bridge have resumed there. Recently, the Russians released a video showing strikes on the bridge, claiming that it was completely destroyed. But late last night, they began posting new videos again, claiming they're continuing to hit the bridge to finish it off. We're still waiting for verified information. Overall, all of this points to one thing. The Russians are continuing their offensive and doing everything they can to eventually capture Kherson. Attacks on the islands in this region also continue, so the situation remains very difficult. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians are continuing the assaults on the northern part of the village of Plavni and trying to advance near the village of Stepove, attempting to approach Stepnohirsk from 2 sides. A direct breakthrough into the city has failed. The Ukrainian forces repelled the attacks. For now, over the past 24 hours, the front line hasn't changed. In the Velyka Novosilka direction, and the Russians are pushing through near the villages of Shevchenko and Zelenopole, assaulting Tymyrivka and trying to break through toward Novoivanyivka. The situation is difficult, and the Russians are claiming full control over Tymyrivka. However, the Ukrainian side hasn't confirmed the loss of this settlement. According to the general staff, fighting is still ongoing in the area, so for now we wait. In the Novopavlivka direction, the Russians are storming Muravka, pushing toward Novopavlivka and fighting near Dvorichna, as well as for control over Zeleny High and Voskresenka. The level of activity is extremely high, over 20 assaults in the past 24 hours. The Russians are gradually forcing the Ukrainian forces out of some positions, but thanks to Ukrainian counterattacks, the front line hasn't shifted significantly. For now, Ukraine is actively trying to regain lost ground, and intense battles continue. In the Pokrovsk direction, the situation is among the most intense on the front. Here, the Russians are trying to advance around the town of Rodynske, attempting to break through the last line of defense to encircle Pokrovsk to secure the advance. They are widening the flanks, making an aggressive push toward Biletske. As a result, heavy fighting is taking place in Suvorove, and they are also breaking through from Novotoretske. Based on geolocation footage, the area near Biletske has effectively become a gray zone, showing just how serious the situation is. However, the Ukrainian forces are not allowing the Russians to fully entrench themselves yet, and fighting continues. Additionally, the Russians are assaulting Volodymyrivka, and Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups are still trying to infiltrate Rodynske. Attacks are also ongoing near Novoekonomichne, with assaults on the villages of Prominy and Lysivka, the outskirts of Pokrovsk, and breakthrough attempts near Kotlene. The battles for Udachne and Molodetske are also still raging. As of the past 24 hours, the front line hasn't shifted, but the situation remains critical. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the Russians are continuing attacks around Chasiv Yar, pushing near Delyivka, and assaulting Sherbynivka and Poltavka. So far, all attacks have been repelled, and the Ukrainian forces are effectively destroying Russian troops using FPV drones. For now, the front line remains stable in this sector. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are pushing forward near Serebryanka, Grigorivka, and Verkhnyokamyansk. There is also very heavy shelling in the area as Russian forces are trying at all costs to reach Siversk. They even claim to be making gains, but there is no confirmation of this so far. So, as of now, the front line remains unchanged, but the situation is tense and difficult. In the Lyman direction, the Russians are assaulting Dvorichna, Kolodyazi, Shandrigolove, Serednye, Glushenkove, Novy Mir, and Olgivka. Russian troops are conducting about 20 assaults per day in this area. However, just like before, they haven't been able to break through, and the front line remains stable for now. In the Borova direction, Russian forces are assaulting Boguslavka, Nova Krugliakivka, and trying to break through toward Novoplatonivka and Cherneshina. However, they haven't made any gains in the past 24 hours, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian troops are attacking Redkivka, Golubivka, and advancing from Stepova Novoselivka. Meanwhile, Russian sources continue to claim they are already inside Kupiansk and even moving to encircle the city near Sobolivka. However, no video evidence has surfaced to back this up. For now, we are waiting to see how the situation unfolds. In the Dvorichna direction, Russian forces are pushing forward in the area of Fehorivka, but there have been no new breakthroughs and the situation hasn't changed over the past 24 hours. In the Kharkiv direction, all Russian attacks have stopped and the front line remains stable. Meanwhile, fighting continues in Vovchansk, but the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all Russian assaults. Still, the situation remains difficult due to ongoing shelling and the active use of Russian FPV drones in the area. In the Sumy direction, there have been no new reports of assaults, and the front line remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, Pushilin is blaming Ukraine for everything in a report to Putin.
Unfortunately, the water pipeline that was built hasn't solved all the issues. And as far as I understand, it hasn't even reached full operational capacity. But there's another problem the government is reporting to me: massive water loss during transport. In some places, we're losing up to 60% of the water. Why?
Vladimir Vladimirovich, the first reason is that we've had to reduce the water supply schedule due to the shortage. Right now, in the Donetsk-Makivka agglomeration, water is supplied once every 3 days for just a few hours. In Yenikiev and surrounding towns, once every 4 days. In Mariupol, once every 2 days. Unfortunately, this kind of schedule puts more strain on the system. We're constantly repairing 100 ruptures every day. At peak times, it's been up to 2,000 per week. These breakdowns are due to the aging infrastructure. Decades without repairs, much of it hasn't been touched since the 90s. We've now merged Donbas Teplongo and voted on Basa to streamline repair efforts and eliminate jurisdictional delays. This has significantly improved coordination. We're also looking into bringing in additional support to speed up the repair work.
So, in short, Pushilin decided to blame Ukraine for everything again. The circus continues. And that's all from me. So, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.